Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e. And the topic for today is not the intimidation check, it's ability checks. We're going to talk about the ability check. It is probably the core mechanic other than the attack roll for Dungeons & Dragons. So ability checks are a very common thing to roll in the game. So now, if you turn to page 174 of the player's handbook, you'll find details on ability checks. Now, I'm not going to read through that section because it's actually quite involved and there's lots and lots of paragraphs, and I don't need to do that. Instead, I'm going to explain to you the basics behind the ability check, and then I'm going to demonstrate it to you. Okay, so ability checks, they can be made really when requested from the Dungeon Master. You don't have to roll an ability check unless your Dungeon Master requests you roll those dice. And this is only when your character does something, and it can be all sorts of different things. It doesn't matter necessarily, there's no set rule for this. It can be applied in a very abstract manner. There are 6 different abilities that you can use. There is strength, which is obviously based off lifting things and strength. Dexterity, which is sort of how nimble and quick you are. Constitution, which is sort of how well you are at fighting things off, or just your general fitness level. And then things like intelligence, this is sort of like how good you are at remembering stuff and how much knowledge you've accumulated. Wisdom is sort of your ability to notice things in the world. They might be through your senses or being able to sort of make some sort of, I wouldn't say, I don't want to use the word insight, but it's kind of like that. And then charisma is your ability to sort of swoon with people. So your ability to manipulate people through a social interaction of some kind. So ability checks are usually only ever requested from the Dungeon Master. And this is only if there isn't a skill that will fit whatever the character is trying to do through some sort of action or task. So skill checks are really just another form of ability check. The only difference is quite often they have proficiency bonuses added to them. So what you do is you roll a 20-sided dice, or a D20, and you're going to add your ability modifier to the dice roll, and the result of that, once you add them together, that result is your ability check. And this basically determines whether you are going to be successful or whether you're going to fail at a task. And there's usually like a set of numbers that a Dungeon Master will work with. So something like very easy is a 5, then easy is 10, and then medium difficulty would be a 15, hard is 20, very hard is 25, and near impossible is 30. So those are sort of that's the scale that the Dungeon Master is working with, and it's up to them to work out what the difficulty will be for whatever given task it is. So I'm going to present you with an example on the whiteboard, but we'll just cycle through here very quickly, and I'm going to give you just a couple of, I guess, an explanation for each one of them, and then I'm going to demonstrate just one roll rather than every single one of them, okay? So if the result of your ability check is less than the difficulty class value that is set by the Dungeon Master, your character will fail in trying to perform that act or complete that task. So you need to get equal to or greater than, usually in the case of an ability check, you usually have to get equal to or greater than to be successful. If you get less than, you fail. So a strength check usually relates to using your muscles, pulling open a door, something like that. Dexterity checks usually relate to how quick your character is likely to move. So catching a thrown object, if somebody throws something to you, your ability to catch that out of the air, that would be dexterity. Constitution is a tricky one. It often does not come up, which is why you're kind of wondering why we're even talking about it. Constitution ability checks usually relate to how fit or tough your character is. So that might be related to running a marathon race and being able to keep yourself going without sort of falling over and carking it. Something like an intelligence ability check or intelligence ability check, it relates to how well your character memorizes information, your ability to solve problems, but more it's related to memorize stuff, but it can be related to solving problems as well. There's a little bit of interplay between intelligence and wisdom. This might be related to, in terms of intelligence, it could be that you are trying to complete a puzzle or remember some sort of historical event in the past in your fantasy world. Something like wisdom ability checks relates to how well your character detects danger or understands when someone is being deceptive. A charisma ability check relates to how well your character interacts with other characters or NPCs or non-player characters, or even a monster. This could be threatening a guard, so your ability to threaten a guard so they'll let you pass, or convincing a monster to help you, or tricking a guard into letting you pass. So ability checks really only ever get used when the Dungeon Master requests them and there's a chance of failure. If there's no chance of failure, then really there is no point in having any kind of skill check or ability check. So some tasks are so easy. Some tasks are so easy that no check is required because there's simply no chance of failure, and you could just sit there and roll the dice endlessly, which would be pointless and also metagaming, but yes, also completely pointless. So for this example, what I've done is I've decided to select the fighter at level 1 from the Dungeons & Dragons 5e starter set. This is the fighter level 1, the folk hero, and I'm going to use the character sheet or pre-generated character sheet from that particular box set. You will find a link to that down in the description if you need to go and see the numbers. Now this particular character has a strength of 14, which means their modifier is a +2. And our adventurers are exploring the Rat Fang sewers, and they're making their way around here. And you might find yourself in a situation where, as you're exploring, you find a fallen grate. It's made out of metal. It looks like it's quite heavy, and so you say, you know, I'm going to step up as the fighter, and I will try to move it. Now, when you decide to take that action, the Dungeon Master will then say, look, I think you will actually have to roll a dice to see if you are successful in doing this. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you to roll a 20-sided dice, and you're going to add your strength modifier. The modifier for this particular character is a +2. So I roll my dice, I add that number to that, and we're going to get a number from that right now. Now I've set the difficulty at 20, by the way, for those of you who are wondering what the difficulty was. 20. So it's quite heavy. It's very, very heavy. So 17. So 2 plus 17 equals 19. So 19, as you can see, is less than 20, which is the DC that I set for lifting this grate up. So you fail. Here's the thing though. You might decide, look, I might have a bit of difficulty trying to lift this on my own. What if I get some help from somebody else? And if the Dungeon Master is willing to allow you to do it, they can say, okay, you can roll with advantage. You might have already rolled that dice, but if you ask the cleric to help you, they're quite strong. They're going to come over here, and I'm going to allow you to roll with advantage. You've already rolled the first dice, so you can now roll the second dice. In some cases, if you do all of this and say, look, I want to get somebody to give me a hand to help me move this, you just roll 2 dice at the same time rather than rolling 1 additional dice. So I'm rolling an additional dice, but it didn't get me a better result. Okay, it might get you a better result having advantage, but sometimes it does not. Here's the thing that tends to come up. Usually when a player rolls the dice and they fail, they know they failed because 1, they didn't succeed in performing the task, they know the numerical value, which is 19, and therefore they'll say to their Dungeon Master, can I roll the dice again? And this is one thing as a player and a Dungeon Master, I'm going to just point out that players like the idea that they can keep rolling the dice until they succeed. But that is metagaming. That is you taking your player knowledge and applying it to the situation. And also the assumption on your part that every time you roll a dice, that represents just a short period of time of you trying to perform that task. So I can understand why players will sometimes do it. It's not always metagaming. Sometimes they honestly think that that must represent 6 seconds of me trying to lift the grate. Whereas as a dungeon master, you'll be looking at this in terms of, no, you can't make another roll because you've already attempted to do so. You had advantage, you had help. The item is far too difficult for you to move. So that's the thinking of your dungeon master. Now, also another thing to bear in mind as a player and a dungeon master is some dungeon masters, when they ask you to make that roll and they get you to make one roll or one roll with advantage, that represents your entire attempt at trying to lift that item over a period of time. And so this actually represents your inability to ever move it. If you cannot roll high enough the first time, they're not going to let you roll again, because it's not showing you an indication of 6 seconds or a short period of time. It's an indication of all of your attempts to try to lift that particular item in some way or another. Now, hopefully that explains some of the nitty-gritty around ability checks, because I do have videos that talk about metagaming and when to roll dice, and talking about success, failure, automatic failure, automatic success, things like that. You're welcome to go and check out that video, by the way. But that is basics of ability checks. It's very, very simple. It's the one thing you certainly should make sure you understand. And that is all I have to say for the topic for today. So if you found this video helpful or informative or educational, please share and like the video. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already subscribed. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live, and check your settings to make sure you are reachable by YouTube as well. Otherwise, you won't find out about my live streams or my published videos. Now, if you want to support me, you did so by watching this video. Thank you very much. I have hundreds more videos on many, many topics for players and dungeon masters. You're welcome to go and check those out. Now, I don't do Patreon, but down in the description, if you want to support the channel, I have affiliate links to the Book Depository or Amazon, and you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission, and that helps the channel out, so I keep doing this sort of thing. But watching more of my videos is actually really good, because then I know what I'm doing is working for you. Now, if you have any questions, any feedback, any personal experiences you would like to share, if there's something you would like to disagree with, then fine, or just say hi. That's what the live chat box is all about. Go and start typing in there quickly. Otherwise, if you weren't part of the live stream, then use the comment section, because that's what YouTube put it there for in the first place. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.